Match number 7 goes the way of Jannik Sinner against Carlos Alcaraz. If this was an American playoff series, then Sinner advances to the next round. He wins it 4-3. They play in the Beijing semifinals, and Sinner wins it 7-6, 6-1. And I do have some thoughts to share. I felt once again, and this is not the first time, that Jannik was just superior mentally in terms of being able to win big points, not make mistakes on big points. I mean, we've seen this for the most part throughout their head-to-head. I mean, I know that Alcaraz won one of these matches having saved a match point at the U.S. Open, and it's still to this day their most consequential meeting. But if you look at the large sample size, all 7 matches, and I just did. Statistically, it's staggering what's happened. So I want to first talk about the big picture, all 7 matches, and then I'll zoom in on this match. Breakpoint performance on both sides. Jannik has overperformed by 12.5%. Alcaraz has underperformed by 9%. And I'll explain to you where I get these stats. If you look at service points won against each other, so that's taking every single service point, Sinner has won 62.5%. Alcaraz has won 61%. So it's a 1.5 point edge, percentage point edge, I should say, for Jannik Sinner. Now across the 7 meetings, you look at breakpoints won, breakpoints against one. Sinner, 75%, 60 of 80. Alcaraz, 52%, 32 of 61. So all I'm saying is if it's a break point in these 7 matches, then Alcaraz is 9% less likely to win the point, and Sinner has been 12.5% more likely to win the point compared to a regular service point. It's staggering. It's a big deal because, these things are typical when the sample sizes are small, and a couple of points go either way, and you can see these things. But we're looking at 141 break points here. In the 7 meetings, Alcaraz has actually generated 19 more break opportunities, but he's broken serve less. In this match, each guy had break points in 5 games, and Alcaraz broke in 2 of them, and Sinner broke in all 5. That's actually the better way to look at break points. It's better than actually looking at break points as it's currently and regularly calculated. But if you look at the breakpoint numbers, Sinner saves 7 of 9. Alcaraz saves 3 of 8. And I can zoom in on some of them. Maybe if this were a whole full-fledged Monday match analysis, we'd look at some of them. But I'm going to save that until later. In general, I just think Alcaraz wants it too badly. I think he gets frustrated and tense quickly when he's playing Jannik Sinner. It's all about the opponent. It's not about the occasion. It's just a Beijing semifinal, right? Alcaraz has been in bigger matches before. He's performed to the highest level in biggest matches before. But when it comes to Jannik Sinner, a guy who's given him a lot of trouble, I just think it changes his ability to kind of stay calm mentally. Whereas Sinner has that cool, calm, collected confidence and can play his simplified approach and ends up coming up with the goods. This is now 2 losses in a row where it seemed like Alcaraz didn't turn the page on set 1 as well. Medvedev at the U.S. Open loses the first set tiebreak. Very, very close first set. And he comes out in the second set and immediately gets broken and loses the second set 6-1. And the same exact thing happens in this match. Alcaraz needs to make sure that he's not losing matches 1 set to love. You know what I mean? Like, if you are at the highest level mentally as a tennis player, you'll never lose a match because you couldn't get over the fact that you lost the first set and you came out slow in the second set and you let that linger. And it seems like that's kind of happened with Alcaraz twice in a row, because you look at the first game of the second set, he approaches the net where, it wasn't really there, and he gets passed on the first point. Forehand unforced error, where he had all day to set up on this forehand in the middle of the court on the second point, and a first ball backhand unforced error in the net on the third point. It's love 40, and he gets broken at 30. So Alcaraz still, as a 20-year-old, and we've seen this last year, we've seen it at times this year, he's imperfect mentally. In ways, he's great mentally, fantastic mentally, but he's still imperfect mentally, and this kind of is an example of that. And Sinner had a great performance here. Let's talk tactics now. The main thing that stood out to me tactically was Sinner really taking advantage of Alcaraz's forehand defense. We talk about the pace that Sinner can bring with his forehand cross court, or his forehand from the middle of the court into the deuce side. I don't know if you want to call that cross court or not, but whatever it is, Sinner can really, and in the past we've talked about, can Jannik rush Alcaraz's forehand with that pace? Part of it is rushing, but also part of it, I think, is about width, especially in this match. Alcaraz should have been up 3-love in the first set, and he wasn't. He didn't make it happen, because on 2 break points in a row, he netted running forehands, clear defensive positions where you want to add a little height, take off a little pace, maybe add some spin, and just focus on getting the ball deep. You never want to miss when you're trying to play defense. You never want to miss in the net, because the net is literally just it should be kind of the opposite of your goals, to add some height, as I mentioned, and to kind of try to get the ball deep. That's how you're going to try to defend. Alcaraz missed twice in a row into the net. And it was actually 3. So it was twice on break point, and then a third one on game point, just not playing the right ball on the run. But then there were many other instances in which Alcaraz was trying to defend his forehand, and he was hitting it too hard and not getting enough depth. And Sinner was taking advantage of that. So here is a break point, which was an important one, because Sinner just got the break serve in the second set, and now Alcaraz kind of snaps back into it, and he's playing a pretty good return game here, trying to get that break of serve back. Sinner goes forehand, cross court, or inside in, kind of in between, and Alcaraz is on the run to his forehand side. And he's kind of going to drill this ball right down the middle of the court. He's not going to get it deep. He's going to hit it hard, but that's not really much of an asset here when you're trying to defend. In fact, Alcaraz is just taking time away from himself when it comes to his ability to recover into the middle of the court. So you see kind of where this ball lands. Very, very central. And from this spot right here, one thing that Sinner does not do very well is redirect with precision. His timing just isn't that good. And there are a lot of players who do a much better job than Jannik does of playing this ball, close to the line and getting that kind of ideal width on the ball. But the key is for Sinner, don't let that poor timing turn into mistakes. Don't allow yourself to, miss wide on this ball. And Sinner does such a good job of picking a safe target here, not playing it close to the lines, giving himself that margin. Look where this attack lands. And still, against Alcaraz's speed, it's going to be enough for Jannik to win the point. How is that possible? How can you hit a ball that's nowhere near the lines? Well, it is nice and deep, but it's not near the sideline, and you're playing someone as quick as Alcaraz, and you still forced the error. It was good enough to win the point. Well, it's because of a couple of ingredients. Alcaraz hit the ball really, really hard, so he couldn't recover, and Sinner took time away, and he hit the ball really, really hard. It's not about width. It's just all about pace, and taking time away is a form of pace. It's just pace and court position. That's all this is right here. But if Alcaraz focused more on achieving some depth or buying himself some time by taking away pace and adding height, he'd be in much better shape instead of just hitting the ball hard right down the middle here. And we saw this a lot. So credit to Sinner also because his forehand down the line off of this ball was excellent all match long. Look at Sinner play the same shot and do a better job with it. This is later in the match. This is another big point. This is break point, essentially match point, to go up a double break in this second set. And Alcaraz hits this angled forehand cross court. Sinner's in a similar spot here, hitting a running forehand, but he's even further off the court. But he's just going to kind of roll this forehand cross, get the ball out of the middle of the court. He doesn't hit this very hard, but he hits it deep. And now Alcaraz has a really, really tough redirect. And if he does redirect this ball, he's probably not going to be able to get much pace on it because he's hitting it kind of as a half volley. But Jannik doesn't even need to worry about that because Alcaraz shanks this ball. And you can see, if you look at the top of your screen, you can see I kind of highlighted where the ball is. It's I think this ball ends up in the stands. So power of depth. Like when you're defending on your forehand, it's all about depth. Thought Alcaraz missed too much forehand defense. I think too much of his forehand defense dropped short, and he allowed Sinner, to really dominate with his forehand off of that cross-court pattern or from attacking the deuce side. And Jannik from there can kind of make a calculation here, which I think he did a lot in this match. Obviously, the one shot that you always plan is your serve, right? You're going to choose a location and a type of serve. But I do think a lot of players can take the line and plan two shots ahead and say, okay, I'll hit my first serve here, but I'm going to try to take my +1 forehand, assuming I hit a good enough serve to get it. I'm going to also take my +1 forehand here. And for Jannik, it was, let's take that big +1 forehand into Alcaraz's forehand. More often than not, that was the play. A couple of areas where I want to credit Sinner, has nothing to do with tactics or strategy, just stuff that he did well. Man, he volleyed great. Really, really solid volleying from Jannik in this match, which is great to see. It's something he's working very, very hard on. And I saw a couple of really great drop volleys in this match, which has been a particular area of emphasis for him. One of them was on the other break point at 1-love in this second set. It was on the first ad out. So I showed you the second ad out where Sinner hit that forehand down the line to force the error. But on the first ad out, Jannik hit a nice forehand cross-court approach and a backhand drop volley for a winner. Sinner's second serve return was also exceptional in this match. It's almost automatic quality. And this has been a big deal in the matchup for Sinner because he tends to return Alcaraz's second serve really well. This was next level. Statistically, this was the difference in the match. Alcaraz won 5 of 18, which is 28%. He won 28% of his second serve points. How bad is that, guys? How bad is that? That is the second worst of Alcaraz's career. The only time he's won fewer second serve points, I shouldn't say that, a lower percentage of second serve points, was in 2021, playing like his first grass court match ever against Daniil Medvedev. Wimbledon 2021, first round. The only time he's won a lower percentage of second serve points. It's pretty crazy, right? But for Sinner, this is nothing new. The only player who is ahead of Jannik Sinner on second serve return points won in 2023 is Novak Djokovic, and it's by a margin of 0.1%. Both of them, let me get you the number here. I actually didn't write it down, but I should tell you. Hold on, this will only take a second. Okay, so Djokovic is at 55.1% and Sinner is at 55% on the dot. So he is exceptionally good at returning the second serve. And I think the reasons for this are, first of all, forehand, backhand balance, right? The fact that you can't, I mean, look, for a lot of players, the forehand is the weapon. The backhand is a safe space. For Sinner, obviously, that's not the case. He can hit his backhand really, really hard. He can hurt you with his backhand. And that's really important, right? If it's the other way around, that's also a problem because we talked about it. When it comes to serving, everyone can pick where they're going to go. So if you have one wing that isn't as deadly, there you go. You're going to have trouble attacking the second serve compared to Jannik Sinner, where you're not safe regardless of where you go. I think the height and the length is a part of it. Alcaraz hits a good kick serve, but Sinner is so good from the high contact point, and especially on the backhand side, he can really take it on the rise, but without standing too far inside the court because of his length. Long arms, 6'4". So it's tough to kick the ball over his shoulders. That's a big part of it. And then the third part is just safe power. Sinner is very good at hitting the ball really, really hard to a big safe target. And that's your ideal second serve return. You know, you don't need to be precise with it. It's very difficult to be precise with it. You don't need to put it in the corner. But if you hit it really hard, you are going to rush your opponent recovering out of their serve motion. And it's going to be a very effective return. So I think Sinner's second serve returning is something that you should really, if you aren't already looking at that as one of the great strengths of his game, you should be. Just kind of wrapping this up, I don't think Alcaraz needs to do anything radical here in this matchup in order to win these matches. He just needs to figure out a way to take his opportunities better. I mean, you look at the second set, for example, at least, and you know, Sinner breaks in the first game. Alcaraz loses 2 break points in the second game. Alcaraz wins the third game. And then Alcaraz loses from love 40 up in the fourth game. And then he loses from 40-15 up in the fifth game. So how about this in the second set? Alcaraz had game points or break points in all 5 games, and he was down 4-1. So you look at the score of the second set, yeah, it's 6-1. It's a blowout. But just like it's been with this head-to-head, so often it's a lot about just winning the big points, and that's what Alcaraz needs to figure out how to do. There's no radical, like he's not running into this any kind of tactical dilemma or getting completely outclassed. He's not. But for Sinner, he should feel great about, once again, pushing Alcaraz to get into those big moments, handling it better, matching him skill for skill. I feel all right about Jannik forehand to forehand. Actually, I feel very good about him forehand to forehand. I feel good about him backhand to backhand. I feel good about his serve up against Alcaraz's serve. And I feel great about his return up against Alcaraz's return. And that is kind of the meat and potatoes, point in and point out of a tennis match. So Sinner's doing a lot of great things. It's another big win over Alcaraz. Now leads the head-to-head 4-3. Those are all my thoughts. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.